Hello, everyone. So today I invited a very interesting guest, Alison Forrest, and we will talk about the confidence gap, the difference between female and male confidence at work, in private life. And Alison, as a coach for female leadership, can give you some very good advices how to keep your confidence in stressful situations, or how can you train your confidence. So now we'll try to. I'm very excited about this conversation. Hello. So, Alison, can you connect? Yay!
Okay, here we go.
Hello. How are you?
Things to click. I'm really good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for your time and for coming again.
That's it.
Second trial, but still, it's very good that we and you, first of all, could find the time for Christmas, because now it's very, chaotic everything. So, I already said that we are talking about female and male confidence today, and you, as a female leadership coach, you know better what is confident and how to train it and how to be confident in any stressful situation. But first of all, I would like to ask you, how did you become a coach? It's always an interesting question, how actually people came to this state of mind to be a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I never dreamt of becoming a coach before. It was quite a surprise when I came to that conclusion. So I was in finance, like funds management, investment banking for 17 years, and I'd never even considered becoming a coach. I knew I loved helping younger people than me in the industry, particularly women. So I was always helping with the graduate intake and doing presentations for them and things like that. But yeah, coaching was not, I thought I was all about finance. I had a master's in finance and everything, and that's exactly where my career was going. So I had 10 years in funds management in Australia. That's where my accent comes from. And then I moved to Germany mid-2012 by myself. So that's one step of confidence. That's good. And there I started at one of the investment banks over here, one of the big banks, doing renewable energy investing, which sort of started my career into finance, but renewable energy investing, which I really enjoyed. And then I joined one of the big investment banks over here as well. It's actually Australian, but they found me over in Germany, and I worked with a lot of the teams all the way around Europe, London and Edinburgh. And yeah, I was CFO of different companies. I was on the boards of other companies, managing people and teams and shareholders and other boards and things like that. So I had a lot of moments where I needed to draw on my confidence, absolutely. But it never really failed me. I could sort of always say, okay, feel the fear and just do it anyway. And I didn't think it was holding me back. But, now I'm a coach. It's like, it was a little bit. And so that was all going really well until I decided to put my hand up for a posting overseas. And then I just immediately fell into a toxic work environment for me, unfortunately. So my confidence went from right up here to right down into the basement very, very quickly. Because that toxic environment tipped me over into what I now know was burnout. And one of the side effects of burnout is you just lose all of your confidence. The hormones in your brain kind of depress everything. So you can't see any opportunities. You can't see the way out. You think that everybody's out to get you. Maybe they were. I think so still. But I was eating badly. I was drinking too much. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't seeing friends. If I did see friends, I would just complain the whole time. My energy was just really, really, really low. And then one day I was seeking out a coach for leadership, for management, because I wanted to be able to serve my team better when I was over there, because I was the CFO over there. And okay, you know, you learn about delegation and having difficult conversations, the usual leadership coaching. But he also, I talked to him in between the sessions, and he was saying to me, you know, he was just validating every single thing that I was feeling. He was seeing me, he was listening to me, he was saying, you know, it's normal to feel like this when you're experiencing this. And it just made me feel so seen and heard and normal again. And that was really the moment where I thought, oh my goodness, I need to be a coach for women particularly, because I just can't allow other women to feel the way I was feeling. It was new to me and it was shocking. And I just felt so incredibly stuck. And I just thought, there is something that can be done about this. I need to learn what it is and how to do it. And so that was 2019. I quit and yeah, moved back to Germany. And yeah, started training to be a coach right when COVID was. So it kind of gave me a nice bit of space to step back and learn all about coaching and everything. And then I started my own coaching business. So leadership coaching for women. So, and I just get so much energy from it. And I feel amazed and kind of blessed if that I actually found this, because I never dreamt of it before. You know, so often we know what we don't want to do. I don't like this. I don't want to work with these types of people. But it's really hard to work out what it is that we do want to do, because so often fear gets in the way. You know, I was 17 years in finance. I'd got all the experience. I knew all the people. I had extra degrees and blah, blah, all this training and things. And, you know, the thought of starting up again from zero was kind of overwhelming a little bit, but it's like, I have no choice. I have to do this. I have to do this. And so then I was just taking small steps and yeah, starting up my own coaching business. And it's been an absolute joy the entire time, I have to admit.
Congratulations. But here, I already, when you were telling your story, I got a question. What do you think? Why actually women react more emotional on toxic environment? I think that men also reacting, but somehow they don't take it so personal. I don't know, somehow different. Why women get stuck with this toxic environment and, you know, really get big emotions about it, instead of, you know, like a man safe me.
Yeah.
Down this.
You know, I always thought I was more of a guy, actually. You know, I always thought, you know, I've got confidence, I'm fine. You know, my emotions are always very, very even in all of my work before that. You know, I was always just, yeah, it's all fine. Until I hit that, and it's like, wow, where did this come from? I guess a lot of the time, there have been studies that show that guys can externalize things. When things go wrong, guys will say, oh, it was just a really difficult exam, or the guy is a knob. But the women will say, it was my fault. You know, like they'll have these stories in their head, because their amygdala that processes feelings and fear and things like that in their brain holds on to these negative memories much more strongly than the brains of men. And so when something goes wrong, we tend to internalize it and say, oh, I just, you know, I hadn't studied enough, or, you know, I'm just not smart enough, or whatever that might be. And then when something goes right, women will say, oh, it was luck, or it was the team, and oh, it's wonderful. It's all these external factors. But when something goes right for men, they claim it. They say, oh, you know, that was all me. Thank you very much. And they're not trying to kid people. You know, they're not bluffing or anything. This is just how their brain naturally works. So it's kind of unfair in that regard. I thought I dodged it for years, but you know, it turns out I'm just like everybody else.
So this is the first difference, that men don't doubt themselves at all in terms of if something gets wrong. They always say they blame internal but not external. I mean, opposite thing, external but not in reasons. They always say that's okay, that was not me, that was someone else. And women yeah, always blame themselves. Very
Yeah.
interesting. And that this is pure biology. This is how our brain works.
Yeah. It's got a lot to do with amygdala, and there's another a small part of the brain that's known as the worrywart centrum, and that's a similar sort of thing. It holds on to these sort of negative experiences and ruminates on them much more than men actually do. So that's another physical thing that women have that just makes us needing to be a little bit more aware. And of course, there's also a difference in the testosterone as well. So men have around about 10 times more testosterone than women do. And testosterone it allows us to take more risks because the brain doesn't like taking risks so much. It's negatively biased to keep us safe. Our brain is there to keep us safe. It's not there to keep us happy. It doesn't care about our dreams and desires and that we want kids or we want an amazing career. It's there just to keep us alive, unless we tell it that we want these kids and promotions and things. So it's going to be on the lookout for the dangers. And, a lot of things that are new are seen as dangerous by the brain. So it says, I'm gonna stay away from that. I'm gonna make you scared to do it so you don't go anywhere near it. So your fight or flight system, starts to trigger, and that's how the brain works, unfortunately. And it's men have testosterone, so they're a little bit more accustomed to taking risk. Like their brain says, okay, this is all right. But women have more estrogen, obviously. So this is more of a nurturing hormone, but it's also much more risk averse to keep us and children safe in primal times. So we want to stay away from conflict. We want to stay away from danger. And that's just kind of how the female brain works. So we just need some awareness of these differences, and then we can start looking at how to best manage them.
Very interesting. Another thing you said you just managed for is that many women claim and say, I'm not good enough. Every time when in my coaching as a public speaking and voice coach, I hear it very often. My voice is not good enough. Here I'm not good enough, and here and blah blah blah. It's always like not good enough. Even maybe you heard about Marisa Pearce, the British coach, who started this movement for women. I am enough. Please, manifest it. I am enough. Yeah. Allow yourself to be not perfect. I am enough. Okay to do mistakes, but still this I'm not good enough for many women is a big blockage, and especially in terms of confidence. Yeah. What would you recommend? How could you, or what do you do? Maybe you could recommend an exercise for women who have this I'm not enough idea in the head. How can they train themselves to allow themselves make mistakes, be not perfect, and so on?
Yeah.
What can we do?
It's a massive thing. I went into leadership coaching thinking, I need to, bone up on how to delegate and what your first 90 days as a manager should look like and things like that. It's actually, it all comes down to the people's their identity, their inner identity, because that really shows you how to interact with the rest of the world. So your who impacts what you do and how you do it. So if you want to change what you do and how you do something, like have more confidence or be a great public speaker or something, you need to change who you are. You need to shift that to make those moves. And like particularly in terms of confidence is 100% your responsibility. No one can give you confidence. No one can take it away. It's all you. It's all up here, 100%. So you need to start taking responsibility for your own confidence. And I mean, naturally, as humans, we all like to kind of hang out up here in terms of our energy. We like to be inventive and opportunistic, as in like seeing opportunities everywhere. We want to be happy and joyful. We want to feel connected with other people. We want to be inspiring. We want to inspire ourselves and other people, motivate them, all of these high energy type activities. But down here, is all of these low energy things. And this is what takes away our confidence. This is where all of those thoughts that you're talking about, they sit down here, and they are loud. They are really loud. And I call these the issues. So ISH, so we've got the inner critic, which is, you know, your gremlin, your saboteurs, whatever you like to call them. And, you know, your inner critic will say, yeah, you're just not quite good enough. Who are you to do this? Are you kidding yourself? You sound terrible when you talk. And all of these things that this inner critic of yours is telling you. And then you've got the S, these stories. Oh my goodness. Limiting beliefs, saying, oh, well, you know, I'm a woman, so I've got a naturally high voice, so no one will listen to me. Or I'm a woman in finance, I'll never get promoted. Or you have to hustle to earn money. You know, like all of these things that we've learned over the years from society and our experiences and our family and our friends and social media, whatever. All of these stories, they really shape who we are and our perception of the world. And so these stories play such a big role in our lives, and they can stop us from being up here. They pull us down and just create noise down at this level. And the third one is history. So we assume that because something has happened in the past, it's going to happen again in the future. So we say, oh, I can't lose weight. I tried before, so I'm not even going to bother trying to lose weight anymore. Or I tried to do a presentation and it was terrible, so I'm not going to put my hand up for the panel discussion at the next conference. You know, we use history as evidence to say, I'm not quite capable of this. So it's identifying these three things, and you need to practice this like every day. It's not just a one-off, oh my goodness, oh, it must be fear. Okay, I'll stop that now. You have to retrain your brain. It's like learning anything. It's like learning a new language. Your brain needs to rewire itself. The neural pathways have to change. It has to overwrite these negative messages that you've been saying to yourself for decades, and it has to write new neural pathways. So you need to do it over and over again. Things that you believe, you can't just pick other people's affirmations and expect them to work. You have to create a new, more supportive story and override those old negative neural pathways with new ones. And slowly over time, it will take 6 to 12 months to create new neural pathways and potentially new neurons as well, because you're learning a new skill. 6 to 12 months, it's like learning a new language. And so you need to work at this. So you can journal if you like. I love doing judgment journals with my clients. I've done them a couple of times myself. And, you know, it's like, okay, over a day or a week, write down in your journal every time you notice that you're judging yourself or someone else. And after half a day, I just had to stop my own one, because I was just judging myself all of the time. And it was always the same sort of message that I kept on telling myself. You know, it's like, oh, you're too lazy. You know, you should get up off the couch and do this. You know, this is why this isn't happening. You know, you should do this. You should do that. I was shoulding all over myself, shoulding all the time, and guilt. And, you know, we have all of these messages all of the time, and becoming aware of them is the first step. And then accepting that this is what we're doing. We're just human. It's natural to have these thoughts. They come up from the subconscious to the conscious. So that's cool. Just write them down and then change it. So you can make up, like, all of these negative stories that you make up, your brain is making them up. It's a load of rubbish. So why can't you teach your brain how to make up these new stories that you believe in, even if it's just a bit? And try them on for size. Maybe it works. Maybe you need a different story. But you need to find a different story that's more empowering, that just kind of stops the noise of this level and helps to slowly bring your level up, so that when you get up here, you don't hear the voices anymore. You can just go ahead and do fun stuff without worrying about all of this negative chit chat. So I mean, it takes a while, but once you learn how to do that, everything else is just kind of easy. That's one of the biggest things I can share with your listeners. Absolutely.
This is also a very good exercise with journaling.
Yeah.
Just to write your own stories, rewrite your stories. Allow yourself, I always say to my clients, allow yourself to dream big.
Yeah.
Just, because everyone is so logical. They think like, why? It's impossible. Just allow yourself, turn off the logic and turn on your heart and write down what your heart says. Interesting. You mentioned also a very important thing, what I heard now about the society. And here I also have a spontaneous question. In the society, there is this, also battle of sexes. The title of our conversation today is Battle of Sexes, the confidence gap. I think that's very, or many women have this idea really have a battle with men. Yeah, in terms of, having the same positions, having the same rights, and so on. Actually, we already have the same rights. But don't you think that if these women would rewrite their who and be more confident, they wouldn't see this interaction with men as a battle?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, there's all this fight against the patriarchy and all that kind of stuff. And like I'm totally a feminist, as we talked about before. I'm a feminist because I believe women are equally as capable of whatever as men. They have just as much confidence and just as much right to go for whatever they want in their life. And that to me is feminism. That's what it is. So it's I don't know, it's when you're sort of fighting against something, it's because you're fighting against what is. If you feel frustrated or angry about something, it's generally because you're fighting against a reality. It's like, oh, men should, allow women to be on boards, or, women should be allowed to be on boards. Women should be promoted. And it's like, yeah, but they're not. So you're getting frustrated because you're fighting against what is. So you need to accept that could be what's happening and say, okay, what am I going to do about it now? And that kind of takes away, this really low energy, I'm telling all these stories, I've got all these limiting beliefs, society's against women, so therefore I can never move ahead. You get anger and frustration at that level. And so, it's good to be aware of these types of blockages that can happen because you're a woman in finance and things like that. But, you should not let these stories, however true they may seem, get in your way of achieving what it is that you want to. Because these stories will just bring your confidence down and say, why bother? Because that's one of the terrible things that women can do. If they see that, if you're sort of measuring competence and confidence, men will naturally be more confident in their competence and women will naturally be less confident in their competence. And they've done research on this from Cornell University. And they showed that they asked males and females to do a quiz, a science quiz. And women thought that they would get maybe 5.1 out of 10 in this quiz, and men thought that they would get like 7.8. And so in the end, they got the same results anyway. So men are not smarter than females. Sorry, guys. But one of the biggest things I saw there was that they also asked the participants before they knew what score they got, if they'd like to participate the next day in like a science challenge with prizes. And the women, 49% said yes, and the men, 71% said yes. So the women were stopping themselves from even trying. They were self-rejecting from the very beginning. And that's one of the main things that I sort of see in sort of the male versus female fight in the office. Sometimes there is patriarchy and systems and things that aren't working for them, and other times it can be just because women, almost self-reject. And I think that's a really, really sad place to be, and we need to be aware if we're actually doing that to ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what this journaling can help with, 100%.
Yeah, I also want to tell a story because I hear this story pretty often from women who come to my public speaking training. You know, the story is a woman has a middle or high management position and says, you know, I'm the only woman at the table with lots of men. And every time when I say something, my words are not acceptable. How to convince people? This is the question they ask me. And I always say, have you ever considered that if you wouldn't be good enough or smart enough, because it's again about, and I'm not good enough, you wouldn't sit at this table. And if men or if other people says, I mean, they look differently now how you expect them to look at you, it might, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with you. But again, women take it so personal. He looked at me not like suspicious or something like this. And she all immediately has all these, you know, chaotic thoughts, and she starts, you know, take it so emotional instead of saying to herself, well, probably he has his bad day. It not anything to do with me. And yeah, this is the story many women experience. Like, I'm the only one, and men don't want to accept me, they say, and they claim. And I answer, why do you think so? Now we have to rewrite and look at this situation from another perspective. It doesn't have anything to do with you because you are there. Punkt.
Yep.
You are good. You're so good that you're there. Now accept and don't do this self-sabotage, self-sabotage.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to see that all the time. You know, there's women quotas for boards and things. And it's like, yeah, I was on a number of boards and I was always the only woman. It's like, I'm still here. I don't care. And you know, I would hear from clients a lot as well. You know, I'm just part of the quota. That I work in engineering, so they're just trying to hire more women to make up some sort of quota, or they want more senior women in management, so here I am. And it's like, they don't just promote any old person, particularly at investment banks and world-class investment banks and things. It's like they have too much on the line to just promote somebody just because. So yeah, it's these stories that get in the way, and you always gather evidence that it must be true because there is a quota. Yes, they have a female quota. That is true, but you're the one sitting here, you know. And then you assume, or you make interpretations of what the other people on the board are thinking, even though they haven't said anything. You can just tell that Boris is, you know, thinking that I'm the quota and I'm too young and female and I know nothing about engineering, so why is she here? And then you start saying, well, why am I here? And you get imposter syndrome. It's just like, what? It's a never-ending story that I hear all the time.
Yeah. Also, a big difference between men and women is that women are so creative to you know, write or to have these stories in their heads. So dear women who are listening or will watch our conversation, please rewrite your stories in a positive. And another thing is that men have this ability to don't think about nothing. You know, funny joke when a couple are sitting on the couch and she asks him, honey, what are you thinking about right now? And he says, nothing. You cannot think about nothing. I can. Well, dear women, accept that men can think about nothing. It's a good thing just to quiet your mind.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if guys can do that or not. You know, I don't know if they aren't thinking of something, but you know, but I know for me, I'm just constantly thinking of things, you know. But nowadays, it tends to be positive things, and I'm just like, oh, what can I do now, and what can I do with this, and creative, because I've learned how to identify these fears as soon as they pop up. It's just like, Alison, what's this really about? And so I look at it and say, okay, what's the message that I'm telling myself here? Like, what's really the message? And then really, what is really going on here, Alison? And I look at what the wording is, how it makes me feel. And it's like, well, who would I be or what would I do if I wasn't feeling like this? And I can always say, oh, well, I do this. And then I get excited about that and my heart jumps and it's like, well, okay, fear, it can just that's just rubbish. That's holding me back from doing this. Oh, that can just go away now. And you can do that in a split second with practice. And it's just a really nice way to live. And I think meditation as well, like you're talking about, you know, sort of silencing the brain a little bit. Meditation can absolutely help with that, because it's really nice for people who worry a lot, like women with our overactive amygdala. You know, meditation and, you know, just focusing on your breath or doing a guided visualization or something like that, it makes you focus on right now in this moment. And, you know, we're not looking at the past and what I did yesterday and, oh, I should have done that differently, and worrying and dissecting everything that we did. You bring it back to the present moment, because there's no fear in the present moment. You know, fear is something that we're scared of in the future. There's no one going to attack us right now as we sit here. So fear is all about, you know, how our future stories are making us feel. So if we can learn how to bring that back into the present moment as well, even for 10 to 12 minutes a day, that has been shown to lower stress and increase resilience. So they tried this out on like US Marines who went to Iraq. You know, they sent, before they sent off a big bunch of Marines to Iraq, I think it's one of the unis in the US, Miami or something like that. They taught them all how to meditate, 12 minutes a day, just some breathwork meditation. And most of them were doing that. And when they went over into the Iraq, not all of them were doing it, because there was a core of the Marines. They're like, I'm not doing that. That's meditation. That's rubbish. So they all went over to Iraq. And the guys who weren't doing the meditation saw that, hey, the guys who were meditating each day, they could sleep every night. They weren't getting shell shock. They didn't have jitters. They were handling things. They were able to make decisions much more clearly than the people who hadn't been meditating. And so they started meditating as well. All of them were meditating. And by the time they all came back, the studies showed that their stress was lower than when they all went, and their resilience had heightened. They didn't have PTSD or any sort of jitters or anything like that, and they could still sleep through the night as well. So meditation is massively powerful for stress, resilience, all those sorts of things. And it shuts up the stories that we tell ourselves just for a little while, which is really powerful.
Calm your brain and rewrite your stories. What are 3 tips at the end you would like to give women to train their confidence?
Yeah. So I guess the one that I really like to do for my own confidence, I do this all the time. If anything a little bit scary is coming up, it's like, okay, it's not going to stop me doing something great, but I do need a little bit of help. So breathing helps, but that's just boring. Well, a fun one is to have a look back on a situation that you were successful in that's similar to what you're scared about. It's similar. It's not going to be the same, because you're probably scared because it's new, but something similar. And look at yourself in that situation and say, what was it about me that made me successful? You know, it wasn't external factors. It wasn't anybody else. It's like, what was it about me that made me successful? So internalize your success and say, this all comes from me. So it might have been that I'd practiced really hard, and, you know, I practiced out loud with my cat 3 times because it's a scary presentation. I had all my slides, and I slept really well, and I had a good breakfast, and, you know, bring that success formula into the current situation. And even though you haven't done this new situation before, that will give you a little bit of control and a little bit of confidence. And another thing we can do as women to just increase our level of testosterone just that little bit, when we have a big end goal, it can be really scary for the brain, because it's new and the brain says, no, I'm not going there, forget that. And so this is when all the bad thoughts start popping up. If we sort of break it down into small steps, so if you want to run a marathon, instead of jogging 5 kilometers, if you're just a couch potato, say, okay, step number 1, I'm going to buy myself a pair of jogging shoes. And your brain goes, well, that's really easy. Okay, that felt good. Shot of testosterone, shot of dopamine. And so you're more likely to take a little risk to get onto that next step into the process of reaching that big, hairy end goal. And so each time you take a little step, you get a little shot of testosterone, a little shot of dopamine, and your brain says, oh, I really like this. Let's keep going towards this. And over time, you can look back at the gain that you've made, and that gap looking forward to your big hairy goal becomes smaller and smaller. So you get confidence by taking action. So nothing too big and scary, but a little bit of action is 100% helpful. And I did have one more tip. Oh, unpack your fears. So yeah, as I was saying before, whenever your fears come up, just say, okay, what am I saying to myself? What is this really about? Is there something underlying this? Identify it, get to the bottom of it. Really explore it and say, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What could I do? Who could I be if this wasn't here? And then choose to flip that story and choose a different story that's more empowering and more supportive, and at least try that on for size and see where you get to. Those are my 3 tips.
Very nice. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for coming, for your time. It was very interesting and fun conversation. Like, I had a lot of fun.
So interesting. I love this. I'm actually at the kind of a quarter of the way through writing a book on confidence, because I love this topic so much. And I want to make an impact, because I just can't talk to enough women at once about how important their confidence is and how much confidence they do already have inside them. They just need to get rid of this noise down here, and then, yeah, the sky's the limit.
Let us know when you will publish it.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's new and it's a bit scary, but I'm just taking small steps. So it's coming along nice.
Very good. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.